Hi, I'm Brent Stafford, and this is RegWatch by regulatorwatch.com. How do you get a rambunctious group of disparate vapers to take interest in the ever-disheartening discussion around vaping regulation? The science on vaping is suspect, the news is biased, and public health mostly rejects vaping as a safer alternative to smoking. At times, the situation is so bleak, it's hard to find focus. And trust us, it's a vexing question. But the marketing team at DashVapes, Canada's largest independently owned vaping products retailer and e-liquid manufacturer, seems to have found the answer. Helmed by David Praph, the company's YouTube channel has exploded in popularity, notching over 400,000 subscribers and 70 million video views in just the past couple of years, about 3 in fact. What's Dave's secret for mixing the sweet vaping reviews, comedy lifestyle with the sour, the teen vaping epidemic, vaping-related lung illness, and flavor bans? Well, joining us today is the man himself, Dave from DashVapes. Dave, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show. That was an awesome intro. Thank you.
Well, you guys have really done a lot of great work, and we'll be talking about specifics as we go. First, tell us about DashVapes for those that are in the U.S. and don't know much about the company, and some in Canada don't either.
Yeah, 100%. So, if you haven't heard of DashVapes, we are Canada's largest independently owned vape retailer, but also e-liquid manufacturer. Ship orders across Canada, free shipping over $35, and also free shipping towards the States as well, which has been a really big hit. And yeah, so I do the YouTube channel, which you may have seen me on there before, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, and I think humility is good, but it doesn't work well for television. That's what I tell our guests. I mean, your YouTube channel has knocked it out of the park. In 40 million views. I mean, that's decent, right? Would you not say?
Yeah, it's actually I'll be honest, there are still times to this day where I'll kind of look at the statistics and analytics for our YouTube channel and be like, it's still kind of not real in a sense. But yeah, I'm very thankful and proud of where the YouTube channel kind of turned into and where it is today.
So being one of the content creators in the vaping space, we're a bit different just because we do cover other issues and we align ourselves more news, obviously. So give our viewers an overview of the different types of YouTube content creators in the vaping space. Like, how would you type them out?
How would I type out different content creators for vaping?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Exactly. Like some people do reviews, some people do lifestyle, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, so you have your reviewers, which I would say make up a very, very large part of the YouTube community in terms of vapers. But then I feel like a lot of reviewers kind of slowly shifted towards the whole news and regulation side of things. Because everything kind of happened the way it happened within the last year. So yeah, people kind of took a shift in their direction. But yeah, no, reviewers, news and regulations, and also trying to keep the comedy into it too. Kind of like skits and whatnot.
And that's kind of where you started, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when we initially did the YouTube channel. If you scroll way back, our initial videos were kind of like reviews of products and whatnot. I think the first video we ever did was a review for the Kanger Tech top box, if anyone remembers that. And then since then we just kind of kept up with that. But then the 5 types of vapers skit is, I think, where things kind of started taking off for us. It kind of just. It wasn't really planned per se. It was just kind of like, I have this cool idea, and we put it all together, and it turned into what it is today.
So before we do that, because I've got that, we've taken 5 types of vapors and we've shortened it up a little bit so we could run it and show our audience. And by the way, I mean, when we shorten one of your videos, it's really painful because there's a lot of good stuff. We're probably going to watch the whole 4 minutes of the strange addiction to vaping, because that's just, it's just like magnificent, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Cool. So, so just so I can reiterate for everybody, DashVapes is obviously it's a retailer and manufacturer, and you started to work for them, back in 2015, I believe. That's the case?
Yeah, I worked at their Toronto location just as like a retail associate back in 2015.
So you got hired to work in the store. How did you go from working in the store to, mega YouTube creator?
I think what kind of happened was, so I worked in the store for roughly about 4 or 5 months or so, but I offered to take over their Instagram page or our Instagram page because I went to school for like film and photography and all that, and I thought the Instagram page could use like some higher, I don't know, I guess higher quality photos. So I offered to do that, and then out of the blue, because like I love, to this day, one of my hobbies, I guess, or what I love when I pass time is just kind of watch like YouTube videos on like reviews or tech and that kind of stuff. And then I thought I pitched the idea to Shai, the CEO of DashVapes, of potentially doing kind of like a review for a vape product for our YouTube channel and starting up a channel, and he was completely all over it. So it all started from there.
Oh, that's excellent. And so the move, because there's really two big moves here. There was the standard kind of reviews, and then you decided to move and bring in some of the comedy. Why that move? What kind of brought that along?
If I'm being honest, like when we were doing the reviews and whatnot, I love doing it. I still love filming the reviews. Like, it's a lot of fun because I can kind of play around with like cinematography and whatnot and different shots. But I think what it came down to was that when I was just kind of itching to shoot something like a skit, like something with like a set and lighting and all that kind of stuff, and then we wrote 5 types of vapers, and the rest is history.
So okay, let's use that as the cue. I'm going to roll that right now for everybody, and let's have a look.
How's it going, man?
Anything I can help you with today?
I'm actually looking for a new flavor.
Sure, we definitely have a couple here. Do you like banana?
Not a really big fan of banana. This is honestly way too sweet. Honestly, man, this has like no flavor at all. I tried this really good Belmont flavor the other day. Do you have Belmont? You guys honestly need a better juice selection. What's up, bro? Honestly, bro, like there is nothing like a good mech mod. Like, what is ramp up time, right? Like, what is ramp up time?
Wow.
Bro, clouds.
Hey, man.
Hi. I'm looking for something that has Capella in it, but not Marshmallow by Capella, because I think Flavor Art Marshmallow is better than the Capella variant. Do you have anything in those, that you would say that would be within those guidelines?
No, what's up, man?
Saw it.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I just bought this Italian carbon fiber SX DNA 550J TC mod. Honestly, flavor off this, second to none. What are you vaping on?
Inspire Breeze.
The 5 types of
man.
vapors. Let me just say, Dave, that I hope I don't offend you, but this is what I'm rocking myself here. Exact same color, and I'm still version 1.
Oh, the connoisseur would not be impressed with that.
The connoisseur would not be impressed. But when you find a device that you like and works. But yeah, no, this is like got to be my 10th one of these. And I do rock a few other ones. Does the I can never say, is it smock or smoke? Smock, right?
I feel like it's a mix-up. It's whatever at this point.
So does this pass the connoisseur's test?
I feel like for the connoisseur, if it costs anything less than like $300 US, then no dice.
Well, I might have a vaporizer device that passes that test. It just might not be for nicotine.
Oh, well, we'll have to see then. We'll have to ask the connoisseur himself. Let me go grab it real quick.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So the 5 types of vapors, tell us about how big that exploded. Like can you give us an idea? You mentioned analytics before on your channel. what were the analytics like before five types of vapors and then after?
Yeah, 100%. So when we initially uploaded 5 types of vapors, the channel itself, I think we were only sitting at like maybe 6,000, 5,000 subscribers. We were still a very small channel at the time. And then we uploaded 5 types of vapors, and then you know what? It started out like, you know, any other video, got a couple hundred views here and there. And then, you know, after a week, we checked back on it. It's like, oh, we hit 1,000 views. Like that's amazing. Like that was one of our fastest growing videos that we've ever made. And then a couple days later, it hit 10,000, and then 50, 100. It just kept snowballing. And then about, I want to say maybe a month or a month and a half after we uploaded 5 types, we jumped from like 5,000 to 6,000 subscribers to up to 10,000, and then from there it just kind of kept, you know, snowballing over.
And I caught you in another interview show. Have you ever been able to really figure out, you know, what, you know, really propelled it?
Honestly, no. And I'd be lying if I said I was expecting it to, you know, blow up like it did. Because when we initially made the 5 types of vapors, like it wasn't like a big marketing thing, right? We just like we're just having some fun, you know. We shot that in the downtown Toronto location and shot it in a night, got it edited the next day, and yeah, it was just like a fun little project we put together. I showed Shai, the CEO, and he loved it. He said we should upload it. I'm like, okay, cool. And yeah.
Well, that's excellent. I guess it brings, you know, brings me to a question I should probably ask later, but it's on top of mind right now. Okay. How successful have these videos in the channel been for driving business?
Very well. Like if I'm being 100% honest here, like the channel itself, when everything was at its peak, you know, before the whole demonetization thing, even still to this day, a lot of traffic does come from YouTube, and it makes sense because I would say out of all of our social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, YouTube definitely has, you know, the biggest following there. So yeah, no, it's also like when we initially made the channel too, like it was never, in my mind at least, it was never it's like, okay, let's make this channel and then like we'll market the hell out of this company. It was just kind of like, I enjoyed making videos, I enjoyed vaping. Why don't we put them together and, you know, kind of see what happens.
Excellent. Well, sometimes those are the exact reasons to do something. The more virtuous, the better. Let's jump Let's jump into the strange addiction to vaping. And again, as I said, this video is about 4 minutes and 50 seconds long. We're going to do most of it, at least through it, because I didn't cut this one down. Let's have a look. I've got it on the computer, so let's do that.
Hi, my name is Jeff. I'm 22 years old, and I live in a suburb in Ontario, Canada, and I'm addicted to vaping. Actually, is it cool if I rip a fat cloud real quick in here? Is that cool? Really cool. I can make you one of those coils later on if you want. Vaping is just a way of life, man. Like, I feel like the vape is a part of me now. Yeah, I vape on pretty much anything, like sub-ohm, mouth-to-lung, pod systems. You know, pretty much any device that's on the market right now, I've probably vaped it. I like to have my supplies on me because you never know when you're going to need them, you know?
I told you, I don't know what time I'll be home, Mom. Jeez. Oh, Mom.
Behind the camera.
This is the funniest part, I say. See, I'll just stop it for a sec. This is the funniest part, the whole concept of having knapsacks all over the place.
I was like, you can see the camera start shaking because I was laughing. I couldn't keep it in.
All right, so back at it. Oh God, I mean, hold on for a sec. I mean, what would you frame this guy as in terms of what kind of vapor?
You know, I'd say he'd be the clouds, bro, 100%.
100%.
Fat clothes and whatnot. Yeah.
All right, back at it.
How's it going, man?
Anything I can help you with today?
I'm actually looking for a new flavor.
Sure, we definitely have a couple here. Do you like banana?
Not a really big fan of banana. This is honestly way too sweet. Honestly, man, this has like no flavor at all. I tried this really good Belmont flavor the other day. Do you have
What if I run down to the local Circle K and some dude's blowing dank supplies on me because you never know when you're gonna need them, you know?
I told you I don't know what time I'll be home, Mom. Gee. Oh, man. Stupid Mom, always on my back. God, okay. Oh, man.
Like, what if I run down to the local Circle K and some dude's blowing dank clouds? Like, he can't be showing me up. Yeah, I come here like every day for about an hour. I just see who wants to come rep the nation with me, and like 9 times out of 10 nobody shows up, but like, you know, you get a couple bites sometimes, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I try to rep my niche pretty much anywhere I go.
Hey man, quick question. Is it okay if I rep my nation here? I don't want to intimidate anybody with my fat clouds either.
Yeah, no.
You want to check out these sick .2s that I built?
Pretty nice.
Yeah, do you want some? I give them for free. Just follow me on the gram. Hey man, I was just wondering, what nick strength is this? You don't know?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks anyway, man.
I feel like vaping's a really good icebreaker because girls are always interested once I show them the dopest build I have.
What's up, Mom? Want to check out these sick .2s I built? Seriously? Hey, excuse me, miss. Hey, miss. You want to check out these? No? Okay.
Vaping has definitely affected my life in a bit of a negative way. Like, my ex-girlfriend broke up with me because she didn't want to rep the niche with me. So I had to kick her to the curb. It just wasn't going to work out. She didn't even know what a double helix coil was, so like, you know, like, get bent.
Jeff,
Mom, what?
can you come here for a minute? I need to talk to you. I feel like you're drowning yourself in this whole vaping thing.
Mom, the only people drowning are the people in my dense clouds.
You really need to get your shit together.
Whatever, Mom. So, I'm 3 weeks clean from vaping, and I feel great. Are we done here now?
Yeah, I guess that's a wrap.
Okay, good.
Jeff, you vaping in here?
No, there's a fire. I
Are
don't
you
even know where
vaping?
this came
Jeff.
from.
All right, so Jesse and I just filmed the scene where we clouded up the car and Jeff gets caught. Long story short, we're kind of nicking out right now. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this. We had a lot of fun making it. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button down below so that we know. And also leave a comment down below letting us know what your favorite part was. But to stay up to date with our latest videos, be sure you hit the subscribe button down below. And until next time, we'll probably be seeing this guy a lot more often. Apparently you guys like...
So have we seen this guy? Who is this guy?
That's Jesse. He's like, he's pretty much my best friend. And you know, when we first started hanging out, I was already vaping. He was still smoking, and then I got him a vape, and then since then, he's just been completely vaping. And he saw the videos that I did on YouTube, and he's like, "Oh, can I be in a couple?" I was like, 100%. And we shot some of our funniest skits together. And yeah.
So the inspiration for the character is?
I would say it's just the inspiration for that character is just Jesse himself. That's just how he is sometimes, you know.
So rep the niche. What does that mean?
Rep the niche, rep that vape nation, you know.
So how much repping of the nation is there going on out there? Because arguably, to enter into a more serious question, would be is that there has not been enough normalization of vaping. And so I think part of the play here, right, is that rep the nation part, but how this Jesse character is repping the nation is a bit odious, is it not?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, you got to rep the nation. You got to, stand outside your local K for every day for about an hour and just rep the nation,
And blow dank clouds.
And blow dank clouds on 6.2s.
So is the idea behind this is to dissuade people from this kind of behavior, or glorify it, or somewhere in between?
I'd say it's somewhere in between. I mean, like it's almost like what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like overplaying, some people that we've seen in person, and it's just like, it's just when we first wrote that whole thing, it was just like, okay, how can we make them seem like the most like just out there, ridiculous kind of vapor out there, and just stand outside your local Circle K, rep the niche.
There are vapors like this out there to some extent, right? In the
Yeah, 100%. We're just poking a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Because like, don't get me wrong, like I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure I was that person. Like when I first started working at Dash, like building coils left, right, and center and whatnot, and like, you know what? Maybe that's where the inspiration came from. It was just a past me. I'm just pawning it off on Jesse.
Well, blame people for whatever you can get away with is, part of my.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. I think there's serious questions that come out of, this representation, because partially it is what the media thinks all vapors are like, correct?
Yeah, I would say it's like the media usually thinks that like vapors are this like weird. This is in my perspective, at least. I'd say the media portrays, or they think vapors are just like this weird little niche group of people that, they eat, sleep, breathe, just vaping. And yeah, I personally wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah, the representation of vapors in the media, has been detrimental to the vaping industry overall, I would say.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's kind of like where, because we started doing all like those funny skits and whatnot, but when things started getting like really serious about it, that's when we kind of took a shift towards like, a bit more like, okay, let's actually like, all jokes aside, let's actually like sit down and like talk about this whole thing right now. But yeah, no, the media has a very one-sided view, I would say, on vapors and just vaping as a whole.
So back in, the switch, you can see when you're looking through your video list and stuff where kind of a turn was made. But I would say that, one of the biggest, kind of stakes in the ground was around Juul. And you did a piece, the enemy to vaping. So let's watch a minute or two of this. We won't go through the whole thing, but let's just catch a little bit of this. Just got to cue it up. There we go.
If you consume any sort of media, chances are you've heard of Juul.
I gotta bust down my Juul.
This vape conglomerate skyrocketed the vaping industry like no other. Even though Juul is a vape company, they aren't what vapers would call an ally. Hey, how's it going everyone? Dave here from DashVapes, and welcome back to yet another video. Today I kind of wanted to talk about Juul and how they affected the vaping industry as a whole. But before we jump into it, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the little bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. Now let's jump into today's video. Back in 2015, Juul hit the market out of left field. Created by cannabis vaporizer company Pax Labs, they introduced a simple, easy-to-use device that was catered to smokers. This was at a time when the industry was bombarded with box mods, RDAs, and sub-ohm tanks. To put it simply, the Juul almost felt like a breath of fresh air. They had a fairly slow start, and nobody really thought anything of it. But not too long after the release, the vaping industry got turned upside down. Once word started spreading about Juul, it was an unstoppable unstoppable train. Celebrities started using them and advertisements circled around showing people that vaping is a safer alternative to cigarettes. In 3 years, Juul quintupled in size and at one point was adding on average 150 employees a month. But with that popularity came an immense amount of criticism. Underage users started getting their hands on them and the vaping industry as a whole took the blame for it. The anti-vaping mindset was that the flavors in vape devices are appealing to kids. Juul took their necessary steps to help deter youth vaping by pretty much pulling all social media accounts and removing ads. Juul then operated just business as usual, but everything changed on December 20th, 2018. As vaping started gaining traction as a safer alternative to cigarettes, big tobacco companies started panicking. Ultra, who is one of the world's largest producers of tobacco and the parent company of Marlboro, bought a 35% stake in Juul for $12.8 billion. I guess their main mindset was that cigarettes are losing in this battle, so if you can't beat them, join them. This propelled Juul's worth to $38 billion, which put it ahead of Ford Motors, Delta Airlines, and Target. This deal was incredibly controversial, as you can imagine, now that big tobacco now has a part in one of, if not the biggest vaping companies. At the time, I really didn't think anything of it. My main concern was that as long as people were quitting cigarettes and converting to vaping, I didn't really care where the money went. But things took a sharp turn very quickly. This merge pretty much gave Juul the rights to be sold wherever cigarettes are sold, for example, gas stations and convenience stores. This made this quote-unquote youth vaping epidemic even worse, but it did, however, gain Juul a lot more money. The pressure and allegations from anti-vaping activists kept growing, but the issue here is that the entire vaping industry took the hit, not just Juul. Juul remained fairly quiet throughout the allegations, but it seems that the pressure grew too much for ex-CEO Kevin Burns. In September of 2019, Kevin announced that he'll be stepping down as CEO of...
So that's a good spot for us to take a stop on this video. Now, excellent produced piece. What is your thoughts right now, just seeing that again?
I mean, I guess my first thought is like, man, so much has happened since we uploaded that. But I'd say that most of my thoughts still kind of stand with Juul and whatnot, especially with the news of them with the whole flavor ban and whatnot. Yeah, Juul, again, like at the same time though, like if people can quit smoking with the Juul, 100%, if that works for them, great. But I am personally not a fan of what they have done, not only in the industry, but to the industry as well.
And let's talk about the piece, and I promised some of our viewers when I had you on, right, we can geek out a little bit on how these things are made, because I think first of all, one, you use a lot of it feels like a mini documentary in a way. Describe the process.
That's kind of the plan I went with. So in terms of like the whole process of like creating the videos, essentially how it kind of starts is, top of my head, I'll have an idea, of what would be a cool little informational video to do. And then from there, I think the main kind of mindset that we have is something that's, well produced, that's easy to watch, easy to digest, easy to understand, and just try to keep the viewer fully, engaged in the video at all times.
How hard is it to condense these big issues down to such a short period of time? Obviously, I mean, I've been in this business 30 years and it's hard. But you seem to have some ease with it.
It's definitely tough. I'd say like the hardest part is because so much different aspects play in with each other. And a lot of times you almost kind of feel like you're repeating yourself a lot. But the one thing I need to remember is that there's going to be some people that have never watched a video of ours before. And if I mention something that I mentioned in a past video, but only kind of like briefly touch up on it, they're going to be a little confused. Yeah, it's definitely it's a challenge, but as long as when I write the scripts and whatnot, as long as everything kind of flows together, I quickly go over any very hard pressed notes that I need to portray and say in the video. Then I think the biggest thing is just crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. That's the most important, but also, again, as you said, one of the most difficult aspects of it.
Sure. You use a lot of media. I mean, media clips, you know, from news stories and interviews and stuff like that. How do you get your hands? Well, for one, how do you know what to find, and how do you get your hands on it?
If I'm being honest, and if it comes to like news clips and whatnot, it's mostly just from YouTube.
Right.
If I'm doing a clip on Juul, for the most part I'll try my best, and I'll do what I can and do everything I can to get my own B-roll, because I like working with my own kind of shots better, obviously, because you can kind of manipulate it a bit easier. But say if there's like a news segment that someone said something and I need to put it in, then I'll mostly just find it on YouTube. If not, then I'll go to their website and I'll see if I can find it there.
Oh yeah, man. YouTube downloaders and good screen capture software. I mean, those are the tools of the trade. Done. Let me ask you this. You said it in the piece, you know, you said, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically you were making an opinion statement. You were saying, I believe, I think, you know, that kind of thing. So talk to me about how you come to that decision in terms of making that kind of an editorial position, because that's a non-news position. So it's very much editorial.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So when we, obviously, like us being a vape company, you know, there's going to be somewhat of a bias, you know, compared to like anti-vaping and whatnot. But I'd say the main thing that I try to portray in the videos, and our videos at least, is because we know who our audience is, right? Just trying to be as level-headed as we can with no matter what topic it is. I mean, obviously there's going to be some things that are going to be a bit more heated than others, but just trying to keep, you know, a fairly neutral party, just level-headed script and whatnot, and making sure that say someone that doesn't know anything about vaping first sees this video, that they can kind of also understand the whole gist of whatever topic we're talking about.
Let's talk about your viewers there then for a second. First, before you got into the issues, would you say that who were your viewers then? And then when you got into the issues, did your viewers change, and how so?
When we were doing skits and whatnot, I feel like most of our, because like at the time when we were uploading skits and they were getting a lot of traction, we were working pretty much with the algorithm within YouTube, and it would essentially just push videos left, right, and center to pretty much everyone. So, you know, random people like non-vapers or whatever watching these videos, I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what, that's pretty funny. But once we made the shift over to like the news and regulations and whatnot, then that's when like most of like most of the vapers actually started tuning in. Like a lot of, because we also got cross, what's the word?
Fertilization.
Our video got pushed out all.
Something like
our video also got pushed out on a lot of other creators' channels as well. So
cross promoted.
Yeah, that's what it is. And yeah, so as soon as we started uploading actual like news and regulations and whatnot, we definitely started getting a lot more of the actual vapers on YouTube.
So, you know, one of the things that we've had, you know, our issues with RegWatch is because we've been news and regulations since day one. And in 2015, when we first started posting, you know, our vaping stuff with e-cigarettes always in the title and smoking, and, you know, we have to use the word smoking a lot. We did earlier. You know, all of our keywords, I mean, we were screwed. Our titles were screwed. Our copy was screwed.
Right.
And, you know, we have to talk about death sometimes in terms of, you know, in our leads and how many people have died from smoking and stuff. We've had real problems. And YouTube's we've never had any love from the algorithm. And so, I mean, so I'm curious about whether or not you guys saw a change in viewership outside of the demonetization and some of the more recent craziness that Google has done as a result of a bunch of different things. Do you notice that is there less interest in the regulations? And let me just say one last thing. If there's not, I'm going to steal some secrets from you because you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I would say that like the one thing I've started noticing a lot is because for the last, I want to say, I don't know, 6 months, maybe 7 months, it's probably about a 90-10 split between like regulations and laws to like anything else. I started noticing a lot more comments being like, oh, we want another skit. So I'd say it's the people that first subscribed because of the skits are still around. And now this is where it gets tough because the regulations are so important and the news is so important, but a lot of the people that initially subscribe to the channel subscribe for like the comedy and the skits. So it's kind of like finding that middle ground. But in terms of like actual traction on regulations and whatnot, I find that because it's been talked about so much and so many people are covering it, that it is kind of tough to, you know, maintain the traction. But as long as we're trying to keep it, you know, somewhat interesting and keep it, you know, nice B-roll cinematography and all that, cater to like our original subscribers as well. Try to add a bit of comedy to it, just because like it's such a serious topic.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's been steady, I would say.
Right. So a calculation did have to be made, knowing that you might take a hit by going over to the regulation side. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we started doing the regulations, things were like pretty normal, but again, like the channel went from like doing comedy skits to get people's mind off of things to doing the regulations and whatnot. But I feel like both of them are equally as important. You know, sure. The comedy just to kind of, you know, especially in these stressful times, just like kind of like a breath of fresh air, you know. But then also our main goal is to inform, you know, the general public, not only vapers, as to like what's going on within the industry.
You mentioned that no matter what, you know, the regulations, the news, these issues are so important. Can you elaborate on that? Like, why is it so important?
Mainly because I personally feel like, you know, the vaping industry, and I feel like a lot of people can agree with me on this, that, you know, we haven't been dealt the fairest hand, per se. And also it just kind of, because quite frankly, when I first started actually diving into, you know, the regulation side of things, like it's kind of an eye-opener as to how one-sided, you know, laws and regulations and government can be towards, you know, pretty much anything at this point. And again, just trying to let the general public know, and also try to change the general perception of vaping. You know, everybody thinks, oh, vaping is terrible for you, it's worse than smoking. The main points of these videos that we made in terms of the informational side of things was to try to kind of dive into why they think it's bad and pretty much just disprove it.
Do you think that you're reaching a lot of people that are not vapers? That's the question.
Initially, yes, we definitely were. But again, as soon as going back to the whole YouTube thing, as soon as they kind of cracked down on not only us but all vape channels, that's when it started. You know, that's when it started getting a bit tough, because before we got demonetized, again, like our videos were getting pushed into recommended feeds on pretty much everyone. So the non-vapor would see it and be like, oh, you know what, like that does make sense. But since we got demonetized, it's pretty much back to like square one, where like it's word of mouth, being like, oh, you should watch this video, and it just kind of spreads from there.
So are you, and let's just nail this down, you know, for people out there that are YouTube content creators, and I am, obviously, so I've got this question is on my mind. When you say demonetized, are they not allowing any of your videos to carry ads?
It's very rare. So essentially, there's two levels of the demonetization. There's like the limited or no ads with the yellow dollar sign.
Yep.
And there's the like fully demonetized, where you can't do anything with it. The YouTube algorithm is very, very weird. I have still yet to figure it out, but we'll upload a video, and as soon as it gets uploaded, it'll have like the limited or no ads. It makes pretty much between two things, it makes sense compared to, you know, what it would usually get, which
right.
doesn't really matter to me personally. But the big thing is that if it has limited or no ads, the push for it is significantly less.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I mean, it is strange, because it's strange to the extent to what they will allow. We actually do get monetized for, I would say there. It's iffy. You know, it's 50-50 sometimes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, this is our views are brutal. I mean, our views come on Facebook, obviously, as most people know. Some of our political content that we've done recently, those are all off. Some are on, but I mean, you know, we have a lot that's off. And as
right.
we keep scrolling down, but surprisingly though, I mean, I'd say surprisingly, like our political stuff is all on, but as soon as you get to like, we can have like me ranting and raving, and people all know some of my rants and raves. I don't need to elaborate much on that. We don't turn monetization on for our Whole Truth episodes because those we want clean from any advertising and people to just get at the message, right? So our Whole Truths we turn off, but but yet, it looks like some of them were on, and I'm gonna have to turn those off. But I mean, we actually have more monetized ability, just not the traffic. Whereas, I've heard a lot of vaping content creators lately say that they're completely demonetized to a large extent.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to see our video manager page there, it's pretty much like limited or no ads for 99% of them. But the weird part is, again, this is the part that confuses me, is that we'll upload a video, I'll have limited or no ads, and it'll stay like that for maybe 2-3 weeks. And then after 2-3 weeks, I'll check back, and then all of a sudden, like a random video will have full monetization out of nowhere. And it's like, I don't know what triggers the monetization aspect of it, but at this point, like when it first initially happened, I was pretty bummed because I was like, oh man, what's that gonna mean to like our reach, our viewership? But then we just kind of took it in stride, just continued uploading videos. Like I just kind of forgot about the whole monetization thing, because at the end of the day, I started this channel and I'm uploading on this channel because I just enjoy making videos and making content and whatnot. Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to understand that the monetization issue isn't necessarily about making money. It's about making sure that you're welcome in the algorithm. Because if you're of content that cannot be monetized, then you are content that cannot be widely shared by the algorithm. So that's really one of the biggest
100%.
issues. Around that.
I spoke about this on I believe it was either Grim Green or Jay Hayes. I was speaking on their stream, and a point that I made that I still stand by is I would totally accept making absolutely no money on these videos if it still got pushed out the way it normally would. Yeah. Because again, like I feel like seeing the viewership and making sure people are being engaged in the video is, again, I would trade the money for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's watch another one of your videos. Now, this one too as well, I've shortened up a bit. And this is Black Market Vaping, and this comes from September 14th, 2019. So we're talking exactly 1 year after FDA deemed vaping to be an epidemic, and that it posed a clear and present danger. And I hate those words. But anyhow, and this is obviously 2-3 weeks now after the E-Valley scare broke out. So that was the vaping-related lung illness at the time, not yet branded E-Valley. One second.
What we've seen in the course of the past, let's say, month, is an increased number.
Seema Herman never expected that what she thought was a harmless habit, vaping, would end up nearly killing her.
What we've seen in the course of the past, let's say, month, is an increased number of people who are coming in with respiratory problems as a result of vaping.
The fact that they market this crap to children and they turn it into pink, pretty purple packaging candy pisses me off.
My name's Chance, and 2 weeks ago, my lung collapsed from Julie.
She was vaping a cartridge a day.
Don't let me close my eyes. Don't let me fall asleep or I won't wake up. You don't need it. It's gonna kill you.
There is a fatal trend sweeping across the nation. But contrary to what the mainstream media is claiming, this is not due to regular vaping. Now let's face it, vaping has been the subject of controversy since it hit the mainstream market around 2007. Studies started popping up left, right, and center regarding the health risks attached to vaping, which were extremely low. However, alongside those studies, there were also some negative news surrounding vaping. For example, the popcorn lung and formaldehyde fiasco that happened a few years back, which were easily debunked. Even though the research was easily dismissed, this prompted many anti-vaping groups and news stations to look past the real information misinformation and promote the misinformed dangers of vaping, reaching millions of people. The latest in vaping news controversy revolves around hundreds of people across the nation contracting lung illnesses from vaping, with 6 deaths as of this video. This has sparked outrage across the country, with all of these anti-vape activists pretty much eating it all up. To top it all off, we have individuals who have been to the hospital speaking out on their social media pages on how vaping is extremely dangerous and how we need to get rid of vaping as a whole.
So I'm just going to leave it on there for a sec. I mean, I wanted to stop at the sign.
Yeah.
Now, you spent obviously some hours, if not quite many of them, going through images. What were your thoughts on these signs?
About the no vaping campaign signs?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I felt that I feel like there was more to the story than just like somebody just miraculously being like, I want to start a no vaping campaign, you know? When I initially heard any of these stories, to be honest, like I remember the first one kind of popped up and it was just like, okay, there's obviously something more to it. And then the second one popped up, and then the 10th one, and the 50th one. And then it was just kind of like, my first mindset was like, I need to find out, you know, what's actually happening here. Because, you know, at this point in September, people have been vaping for, you know, well over 10 years at this point. And just recently, we're getting a lot of teenagers that vape for maybe less than 6 months, less than a year. And they're coming up left, right, and center, just being like, vaping is horrible for you. I guess you could say that I had a bit of a tinfoil hat on at the time, but yeah, no. Then we just kind of started diving into each individual story, kind of looking into it, and just so many things just didn't add up. So that kind of propelled me into making this little mini documentary, so to speak.
So Dave, I'm going to have to ask you, please do unwrap your tinfoil hat, place it on your head, and share with us some of the signals that were coming in that you can recall.
Well, I don't know if you saw the initial video I did about Chance Amarada, that teen out in Florida that got a lung illness. But,
What's the name of it?
It was called Teens Lung Collapse from Vaping, like what happened. And it was a story surrounding a teen in Florida named Chance Amarada. And that actually got sent to me when we were opening up our Burnaby, BC distribution center. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. So I kind of looked into it and did the full video about him, you know, just kind of being like, okay, it doesn't really make sense that, you know, his lung would just randomly collapse if he was vaping, but whatever. And he started up this foundation called Lung Love Foundation. But when you click on it, it kind of, the production and the kind of content that he was pushing out was just it was marketed way too well for just some kid to just start up, you know? So I ended up going through like the following and followers, and like them and Truth Orange were following each other. And I thought, I was making connections that I didn't have proof that connected, but again, that's where the kind of tinfoil hat came into play.
So the suggestion is that he was, you know, a front for an actual well-funded campaign.
I mean, I don't have any proof, but that's kind of what I believe. Also, he made I think it's taken down now, but he also made a reply video to me, pretty much calling me an idiot, but he has since taken it down.
So I mean, that's awesome, and I you know, and as one of your viewers, let me say it. This kind of work is one of the reasons why that I love watching your videos. And about this, it's Chance, right? That's his name.
Chance, yeah.
Yeah, Chance. So to add not just to the tin foil, but I would say like rock solid here, like, is that he was, when the vaping-related lung illness, and the way that we describe it at RegWatch, is when it was rolled out nationally, because it was rolled out nationally, he was the star of that. So on the CBS This Morning episode, that was the rollout, where the CDC statistics were all there blaming vaping, and then this kid's doing the interview. That just doesn't happen by chance. CBS wasn't watching what was going on in local affiliates, and this guy had already been up in stories and local affiliates and written up in newspapers and done radio and bubbled up to the national level. He was plucked out for sure by CDC's media people. That
100%.
is 100%, right?
Yeah.
And so the CDC is involved with serving this young man up to national news, 100%, right? There's just no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I
And
mean,
that-
like, again, like it's just like his whole story just it blew up way too quickly, and B, just the kind of traction it got just from the get-go was almost unheard of, you know. And him, along with Seema Herman, the girl that was holding up the I Want to Start a No Vaping campaign, I mean, she got interviewed by, I believe, ABC. Like, they did a full little documentary with her, and it got pushed live on national television. And I was like, that's insane, because like you'd be hard pressed to find any sort of coverage like that coming from the other side of things.
Absolutely. And let's just jump over here back to my computer shot, and let me just show you this. So we saw so many of these. I mean, I don't want to just say 50, I would say hundreds. It was just, the media was just overflowing with these shots. And there were many people in the healthcare community that responded to these and said, a lot of these tubes, I mean, there's just no way that this is like properly wired up dude here, is probably the only way that I could say it. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that the sheer number and multitude of pictures that came here is suspicious in and of itself. If you know anything about privacy in the United States of America around health, you can't get away with jack shit when it's with regards to a patient and their identity. I mean, this is the reason, like, let's keep in mind that the reason the CDC said that they could not ask for blood or urine samples in order to figure out whether or not these people were using THC or nicotine was because of the privacy laws in the US. So they weren't allowed to demand that, at least at the time, without, you know, implementing a certain level of epidemic or something or other. So the fact of the matter is at the exact same time, the CDC saying we can't test these people to find out whether it's nicotine or THC. Miraculously, though, hundreds of these patients are able to have pictures of them lying in bed, you know, near death, put up on Facebook
and on national television. You know, so it's like, you know, we can't test them, and we can't prove, you know, what causes, but look how bad it's getting, you know. And like, they just kind of left it at that. And, you know, they told their viewers to pretty much connect the dots yourself. It's, to be honest, like, again, like, as I said earlier, looking at like news and stuff, this, like, actually looking in and diving into the whole vaping realm of things, it did open my eyes a bit, being like, oh wow, like the media, like news stations can actually really like manipulate some things, especially, you know, being someone from the complete other side of it, and seeing that, you know, all they showed were kids getting hospitalized and their lungs collapsing, yet you would never hear anything coming from, you know, an actual vaper's point of view. And if you did, they'd probably be critiquing that quite well.
Absolutely. And, you know, I have to tell you that, you know, when all of these shots were coming out over and over and over and over and over again, that I had this inescapable kind of thought that in a way this was like kind of pornography in a way. You know, there was something about it that was really hitting the erogenous zone for some people out there. I mean, why else? Why else? I mean, it's just, so what is this gal's story here that we know of?
Seema Herman?
Yeah, I don't know much about her story. I didn't know her name, actually, because we don't go that deep into this stuff.
Right. So her story, again, pretty much follows the same footsteps as any other teen that wanted to start a no vaping campaign. They vaped, but they don't disclose what. They just say that they vaped, and then they got some sort of lung illness, and then they got news coverage on it. So, again, that's the big thing too, is that like a lot of, obviously this isn't a surprise when it comes to vaping side of things in terms of media, but so much has been left out, whether it was THC, you know, whether it was actually just nicotine. We don't know. We don't know what they vaped at all. And again, it's just kind of weird, the fact that, you know, you have people that have been vaping for a very, very long time, especially in comparison to some of these patients. And, you know, just within 6 months, we saw a spike, like a huge spike in illnesses. So chances are, you know, you'd be smart enough to know that there's some sort of contaminant happening within the industry there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, we called it on the 23rd. We had Dr. Ricardo Pelosa on, and I mean, it was just simply a tainted product issue. You know, any
100%.
product that gets tainted. And I mean, so let me ask you the tough question, or not so tough question, with regard to the CDC. They obviously took a real long time to get around to admitting. I don't even know if they've actually fully admitted to it yet, but the FDA did on October 4th. And we know that the industry and the cannabis industry knew from the Leafly story on September 6th that this was
Great story, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great story. Absolutely.
Great story, yeah.
So do you think that the CDC's inaction, the foot dragging, did it cause unnecessary harm, even so far as death?
100%, because from the get-go, say if the CDC just came out and said, you know what, we found what could be the culprit, because don't get me wrong, I don't condone or endorse youth vaping whatsoever. But I think it would have been also a much better step, instead of being like all vaping, like vaping is going to kill you, like don't vape or else you're going to end up like this kid with a collapsed lung. Instead of that, being like, okay, say if you do want to vape, you should make sure that you're getting it from a reputable retailer, not from just some random shop on, you know, the corner of the street. Making sure that, you know, it's safe to use. Essentially the same way that at least here in Canada or in Ontario is treating cannabis. You know, you see commercials on TV being like, okay, well, if you're going to be taking an edible, make sure that, you know, it's safe to consume, and keep in mind that it's like very strong. Something similar to that, but for vaping, I think would have done extremely well.
Yeah, they haven't yet done, they only do scare if, you know, communications. They don't do anything with regard to actually, you know, here's how. They don't do anything that normalizes vaping and then says, and here's what to do to make sure that you can vape healthy. Like Vape Healthy is would be a great campaign from Health Canada. I'd love to see that. You know, Vape Healthy.
Exactly.
But
instead, you have the Canadian Lung Association coming out with like super skewed videos of being like, oh, we're going to be selling nicotine, you know, ice cream out of an ice cream truck in Toronto. It's like, okay, that's sure, why not, you know?
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, they, you know, if you think that big tobacco fights dirty, well, you haven't seen nothing unless you've been following tobacco control, because they are, it's almost like a huge chunk of people that would have gone to work for big tobacco at one point in history, in this modern history, are now working in public health.
Yeah, it's like big tobacco rejects, you know, working in public health.
Yeah, well, if you're of the type of person that, you know,
exactly.
can do these kinds of things, these, you know, malevolent, malicious things, you know, there would have been a lot of work for you at big tobacco back in the 60s and 70s, but now in the 90s and the 2000s, and now obviously at this point, well, you're going into public health. I mean, wow.
Yeah, 100%.
But I'm maligning, I'm only maligning a part of public health. Let me make sure that I'm very clear, not the people who come on our show.
Yeah, there are, don't get me wrong, there are some very good eggs out there, but a lot are quite, there's just, I don't know, I can go on for hours.
Yeah, well, and we're in our show today is not, we've got tough topics, but our goal is not to get too negative, because, you know, they're,
100%.
Because, you know, hopefully that, you know, we do what we do, you do what you do, and together we're all trying to win this war. Some of us, it's a war, you know, just for vaping. I know for me, it's a war about truth. You know, that's, I mean, vaping's a part of that war. And not sure if we're making any headway right now. But, you know, we're certainly fighting it. Now, you had mentioned that you were looking into these campaigns, these signs. Now, I was never to get a real beat on this, and I couldn't find anything really about it, but was there a Facebook campaign for this? Was there an organization organizing this? Was it California's organization? Like these are happening from all over the country. I don't feel like it was an organic thing where, you know, consumers, smokers created vaping. That was organic. But there's nothing organic about tobacco control. I mean, they've got to bully, cajole, throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it. They've got to go into the high schools and they've got to grab, you know, some of the vulnerable kids and get them to, you know, stand up to run around and tell their peers to stop vaping and this and that. I mean, you know, tobacco control from public health's point of view, there's nothing organic about that at all.
No, not at all. Definitely not.
Okay, so I've got another one of your pieces that you did around obviously the same time for the vaping related lung illness. And this is going to be a bit disjointed. There was a man in the States that took a picture with a sign in the hospital saying that, you know, he wanted to be a part of a vaping campaign, right? And it was a bit suspicious. So I'm going to play the clip and then we'll come back and let's just have a chit chat about that. Cool. All right.
Vaping as a whole.
Seema Herman never expected that what she thought was a harmless habit, vaping, would end up nearly
Dave here from DashVapes, and welcome back to yet another video. Today's video revolves around a story from Amarillo, Texas about a man who contracted a lung illness from vaping. Though the headlines claim that it's from regular nicotine vaping, looking a little bit deeper into the story will show that it has nothing to do with regular vaping at all. ABC News 7 in Texas did a news segment regarding a man by the name of Ben Camarillo. Ben was hospitalized with severe lung damage, and according to ABC News, it was from vaping. They interviewed Ben along with Chris, a man who owns a vape shop in Texas called 806 Vapes. However, once the segment aired on live TV, both Ben and Chris were outraged as they completely twisted their words. In the interview, Ben explained that he was mainly vaping on THC cartridges, but the news stations cut out anything to do with THC and just focused on regular nicotine vaping. On top of that, they also showed a photo of Ben holding a sign that's extremely similar to the sign Seema Herman was holding. Chris from 806 Vapes then made a 9-minute video showcasing what was actually said versus what was aired, and the difference is insane.
Immediately knew what it was from. I knew it was from vaping.
Camarillo says
this is where the fear-mongering starts. Ben finished that sentence with THC cartridges, but they left that part out.
I was always on marijuana, THC, and then when the cartridges came out, it was just almost like a blessing to me in a way, man, because my family didn't have to go everywhere with me smelling like weed, because out here in Texas, man, that's a stigma and it's illegal. They don't care here. I vaped solid for a year. I started right before Thanksgiving the year before last, but never touched a nicotine, e-juice, anything like that in my life. I never even smoked cigarettes. Maybe puffed a few cigarettes in high school, but I never bought a pack of cigarettes to just keep and smoke.
So before this, you didn't even smoke cigarettes at all, really?
Not at all.
Wow.
Always just get the marijuana, man.
So it wasn't nicotine that you were vaping, it was THC, or so you think it was THC.
Yeah. I always bought cartridges, you know.
So here is where I kind of had the most questions. And this kind of goes towards the photo that you took in the hospital holding the sign.
Right.
And the reason why I'm so curious about it is because it's extremely similar to another sign that a teen took by the name of Seema Herman. I was just wondering if you can just give us a little bit more information on that.
Well, that day, I think that day I was in ICU. And of course, I'm still, they're pumping me full of meds. I think I'm dying. So I'm constantly under my panic attack. So I'm constantly with my benzo, whatever, diazepam, whatever the hell. And my daughter showed me a picture. And, that she said, they want to know if we'll join this group of theirs to sign on with them. And I saw a picture. I don't remember much. I remember I saw a picture of a girl that had these things on her cheeks and then had the sign.
Yeah.
And my daughter said, maybe we should do this and get some help get this story out more. Maybe it'll help get the story out. So, in the midst of all that, I told my daughter, I said, go ahead, sweetheart. If you want to make the sign, go for it. I'll take the picture.
I'll take the picture.
Done. Yeah, that one was definitely a very interesting piece. I think that was probably the most research or the deepest I dove into any story. Yeah, that was a crazy one.
What made you? Well, let me ask you: were you suspicious?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so how I kind of got to know about the whole situation was that somebody sent us the original 806 Vapes video through our Instagram or our Facebook, and I watched that and I was just like, there's no way that this is like actually true. Like, there's no way that this is like happening right now. So I ended up leaving a comment on 806 Vapes video being like, hey, like I want to get in contact with you. And somebody actually ended up leaving a comment giving me their phone number for their shop.
Dave, let me just ask you, when you say there's no way that this could be happening right now, what are you referring to?
Essentially like the whole like cutting up of the story, you know, because like Chris's video from 806 Vapes, he was saying that like, because he also got interviewed by the same reporter, and on the call with him, he was even just like, yeah, no, our interview went on for maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, just talking about, you know, random stuff, have it all on film, but then they pretty much cut out the important parts and just left. Yeah, no, he was vaping, he got injured from vaping, this and that. And so and
this is really for me, so I can understand. Are you suspicious that of him actually saying, like, do you believe that he actually said cannabis in the interview, or are you suspicious that the 806 guys were trying to cover his butt? Because my thoughts are that this guy did say that he didn't say that it was cannabis. He probably just said it was vaping. He did do the sign, and then he realized, oops, he got a lot of, you know, blowback, and this 806 guy, you know, helped him walk it back. That's what my thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll be honest, like I could see either side happening, you know, like I could see Chris, you know, trying to cover up, you know, his tracks, being like, okay, no, vaping is, you know, fine. But then I can also see Ben, the man who was hospitalized, you know, actually saying THC. Like, again, there's no, at this point, I feel like there's no way that we're actually going to fully find out about that. But the one thing that I mainly wanted to do was, try to bring light to what was actually going on. And I think, especially at the time, it was like, because this was pretty much at the peak of a valley at the time. So just try to bring more, you know, attention to it. And again, I had the exact same questions as you did. My main thing was I want to get to the bottom of it. Did Ben actually, you know, not say THC, or did he say THC? We will never know. But yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because, you know, he did say that my daughter and a group. So there is a group out there. He absolutely mentioned that. So somebody's in a hospital, lying in a hospital bed, suffering from something like this, so delirious on benzos and everything else, as he was describing, that there's obviously some organized effort that has reached this young woman to get her, and it's a group, right? So I don't know. This is what I'm saying. I mean, it was just so curious that the entire vaping-related lung illness rolled out as it did, that I, at the time, just saw it as something that was, you know, purposeful.
Right. But I mean, another thing that really intrigued me as well is that before I got on the phone call with Ben, I don't remember who told me or what context it had, but I believe they said that somebody actually went into the hospital, like, to go see Ben. Somebody completely random. I heard this is what, I forget who told me this, but they said that a lady walked into Ben's hospital room and literally told him to hold the sign. But Ben saying that it was his daughter, but I don't know, because again, he was, if he was on a bunch of, you know, medication and whatnot, it's pretty hard to, you know, comprehend what's actually going on. Again, the whole story in itself is just a complete roller coaster, regardless of, you know, where it went or what actually happened. Like, at face value, it's a pretty intense little story here.
I agree. So we've got two more of your videos that I want to show to some extent here as we're getting through the last of our topics for today. And this one brings us back. I'm going to jump a bit ahead, and then we're going to jump a bit back. So this is May 13th of this year, so just a short time ago. And this is how it's done. And so this is definitely, by gosh, a square on the money regulations video is the best way to put it. So
we're gonna ruffle some feathers.
Let's have a look.
As the vaping industry progresses, regulations will ultimately determine where the industry will go. After the short-sighted regulations that some states and provinces put through, for example Nova Scotia and New York with their flavor ban, the rest of the population is anxiously waiting to see what else will come of it. From a federal flavor ban to a nicotine cap, there have been many speculations from what could be the future of vaping. However, the government of Ontario, Canada just released some information regarding the new laws on vaping, and I personally hope other places follow suit. But before we get into it, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the little bell to stay up to date with their latest videos. Now, let's see what the future of vaping may look like in Ontario. So we recently received an email from Public Health pretty much outlining the future guidelines for vaping products in the very near future. July 1st of this year to be exact. Now, to cut right to the chase, yes, there is going to be a flavor ban. Only the sale of tobacco, mint, and menthol will be permitted, but it doesn't end there. There will also be a nicotine cap of 20 milligrams, meaning gone are the days of 35 milligram and 50 milligram nicotine salts. Now, if you've made it this far, you're probably wondering why we're saying this is how it should be done in the title of this video. Well, that's because these rules only apply to stores that are not a registered specialty vape shop or a cannabis retail store. This means that while you are still able to purchase vape products at, say, a gas station or a corner store, you are very limited to your selection in both nicotine and flavoring. After conducting our own personal investigation into youth vaping, we found that convenience stores and gas stations were far more likely to sell to minors than, say, a vape shop. The lower nicotine strengths and lack of flavors will limit the youth from getting access to excessively high nicotine devices like, say, Juul or Vape. Meanwhile, the current smoker can still readily buy a vape product, and if the user needs a higher nicotine strength or they wish to vape a flavor, they can go to any vape shop or cannabis retail store in Ontario and purchase flavored e-liquids with nicotine strengths over 20 milligrams per milliliter. Another part of this newly introduced law is that windows must be frosted or non-see-through and cannot be visible from the outside. In an ideal world, there would be no regulation or law changes. However, some compromises need to be made in order for the industry to move forward. In the current world of full flavor bans to fully outlawing vaping, in our opinion, this is probably one of the fairest, most sensible regulations that have been introduced pretty much anywhere. This will drastically reduce youth uptake, all while maintaining the freedom of choice for adult smokers. And we gotta give credit to where credit is due. The Ontario government actually listened to what we had to say and made fair regulations that will still give adult smokers access to vape products, all while also abolishing a main access point for youth uptake. We personally welcome these new laws with open arms, but I'm sure that we'll be hearing from the Convenience Store Association very shortly. As mentioned earlier, these new laws will be going into effect July 1st of this year. With all that said, what are your personal thoughts on these new regulations? Would you
So you said right before we went to the clip that this is going to ruffle some feathers. What parts of that are feather ruffling?
Well, pretty much the 20 milligram nic cap. I don't know if you saw, but Shy got into it with some people on Twitter. Greg Conley and some other advocates, pretty much saying that the 20 milligram nic cap doesn't make sense. But you know, the fact that yes there is a nic cap. You know, the Ontario government's capping anything that's not a registered specialty vape shop to 20 milligrams. But the thing is that, you know, the fact that 50 milligrams is still going to be available, you know, just at a vape shop. Again, so a lot of people didn't really see eye to eye with us on that, because I think what they thought is that, you know, like, we're fighting for a 20 milligram nic cap.
Do you know the truth behind this global?
And yeah, that it got there was a pretty lengthy discussion happening on Twitter.
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting about that is that it is a cap happening at convenience. And from what I understood, that's actually a change. I mean, the discussion at least has been that it was going to be a cap across the board. So that is some good news. Right.
Right. Yeah, again, initially, we were thinking it was going to be like 20 milligrams, like, period. It doesn't matter what shop. So essentially following closely behind with Europe and the TBD compliance.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, luckily, say if somebody does need a 50 milligram salt nicotine to quit smoking, that will still be available just at a vape shop rather than a gas station or convenience store.
So it does sound like the province of Ontario did listen.
Yeah, 100%. Again, like everybody, like all of us here at DashVapes, we wholeheartedly welcome this regulation change because, again, we did our own personal little investigation where we had an undercover underage buyer go into stores and whatnot, and like that was all the clips that we got of that day. Like there was nothing cut out, and like vape shops ID'd, refused sales, whereas like he was able to buy vape products at a convenience store and a gas station. So and also like talking to my girlfriend's little brother, he is in high school right now, and he says that 9 times out of 10 they just get all of their products from either the convenience store, corner store, gas station. So it is a way that a lot of teens and the youth get their hands on vape products.
Yeah, so it's not just social sources. I think that's the key thing, because I know for a long time that's what researchers were telling us. Dr. Brad Rodu mentioned that over and over and over again. That social sources, that was written up that way too as well, and I believe that to be the case. But you have to admit that they are purchasing these products somewhere.
100%.
Yeah, no doubt.
100%.
So before we get into our last topic, of course, I've got to remind everybody that RegWatch does need support from the industry and vapers like you and viewers that are watching. And if you get a chance, I know there's tough times for everybody, but we are pushing on with our content, and there's a lot more vaping content that we are covering. So if you get a chance, please go to support.regulatorwatch.com and take a look around. You can just, quickly fill in the form. And we've got down here, as I'm getting my computer to talk back, and just go here and drop in your name. And you can do one time, you can do recurring by monthly, which is great. And down here in the group identifier, you can always feel free to enter in a story idea. I'm not sure how many words you can put in there, but you can get enough words in there to let us know about something that you want covered, because it helps us figure out, some of the things. We've been covering this issue for so long that, we welcome supporters to give us an idea on what to do. And then, of course, fine list of industry folks that have been supporting us. Some are still on here that aren't currently right now, and I hope they come back. Again, trying times, so we all understand. DVINE Vape has been our anchor supporter. And, of course, you've seen that DVINE and Vape Nation and FLAVOUR CRAFTERS have been all over this episode today. So thank you very much, folks. So, all right. We are going to I've saved the best for last, Dave. This is the CBC. The CBC fails. So the
vape fails.
The vape fails. So why don't you just paint a picture for our viewers? I'm sure a lot know, but then again, our US viewers have no idea what this is. Who's the CBC? What did they do? And then let's get into your response, because it was a response.
Yeah, so CBC, which is one of, if not the largest broadcasting stations in Canada, decided to do a week-long special fully covering vaping. And when we first heard about that, we were just like, oh, perfect. Mind you, this was also just trailing closely behind the spike of Valley. And we thought, oh, maybe they're going to be, debunking some myths and whatnot out there. But after we found out what the title of this special was, which was Vape Fail, we kind of knew what direction they were going in. And essentially it was a week-long special just covering why vaping pretty much should be banned and why it's appealing to kids and whatnot. And looking at the clips that they put together and looking at the actual show and the broadcast, it's blatant just how one-sided it is. I mean, Daryl Tempest was on there for maybe 15 seconds, the only pro vapor in the entire show, and the rest were just anti-vaping. I mean, they even had a high school student as one of their specialists. It was just weird.
Yeah, that was strange. And I mean, they did full live coverage and interviews with that specialist. I mean, how is an 18-year-old, probably not even 18, how's a 17-year-old kid from high school a specialist on vaping?
Yeah, exactly. And I believe that he was a specialist in terms of how how kids get their hands on vapes and why kids vape, and I was like, okay, cool.
But I know, but he was talking about epidemiology and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was. It was insane because like you had a known anti-vapor, you had a lung specialist that didn't even really know much about vaping, and then you had a high school student, and all of them talking together, being like, yeah, this is why vaping should be banned, and this is why we need to take it away. And it was just like, all right, I think we know what motive CBC has here.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about our national broadcaster. I mean, for those in the U.S., you don't have an animal like this. The CBC is a propaganda organ of the government. I mean,
right.
I'm sorry, but it is. It's propaganda.
100%.
Does it scratch my head there? I hate using that.
Yeah, these clips would even prove that. So.
Well, so then let's do that then. Let's just have a quick look. We'll just roll. Now, I've got all three here. I was just going to roll. Long, but I was going to roll on number one. Or is 2 or 3 better to start with? Did you get it? You know all 3 pieces better than I do.
They were all pretty even with themselves because the thing is that like every episode that they had, they came up with new revealing facts about vaping. Either any one of them, I think, would pretty much paint a pretty clear picture of what they were doing.
Okay, so and I've got this is so they did. We're showing yours though, which shows a lot of their clips. So
cool.
Yeah, so you did 3 videos around the 12-minute mark, that kind of thing. So some serious work on your guys' side. Let me ask, like, I know the answer. It's a bit rhetorical, the question, but I mean, this was definitely a response, was it not?
100%, yeah. Because with CBC coming out with all this, it was almost like they had nobody to kind of rebut them, right? It was just like, all right, so here's everything that we are going to produce, and like that's it. And the weird thing is that they said that it was going to be a week-long special, but they cut it after only like 3 or 4 episodes. So I don't know if our videos kind of got into the right spot or not, but it also seems like it ended kind of abruptly. It didn't really have any closure to it. So I wonder if they just cut the whole segment as a whole. I'm not too sure.
I think between your excellent work, and I think with the pushback from the likes of David Sweeney and Dr. Mark Tyndall, and then from the industry, Daryl Tempest and so forth, I think they had to slink away because at some point they had to because at some point it was just absolutely clear that this was so one-sided that it just infringed even on their journalistic ethics. So let's take a look again. This is from your video. So this is DashVapes video. Vape fail. Real journalism is dead.
Thought was perfect. If all checks out, we may finally see a glimpse of hope in this never-ending war between media and vaping. But that glimpse of hope dwindled away rather quickly. To start, they are calling this week-long special Vape Fail, which right off the bat, I'm sure you know where this is going. Just this morning on December 2nd, 2019, they released the first video in this delusional series, appropriately titled How Vaping Helped Hook a New Generation on Nicotine. So today I thought, why not dissect it a bit and hear what they have to say. Now, the full video is about 11 minutes long, and we're only going to look at a few parts that really stood out to me, because if you looked at the whole thing, this video would be about 45 minutes. So yeah, we'll be talking about a few key parts, but if you did want to watch the full video, then I'll link it in the description down below. Now, why don't we check out this masterpiece?
Well, new in-depth reporting by CBC News is uncovering how the federal government ignored early warning signs about the health risks from vaping. Now, this is a part of a series of stories we are launching for you this morning, and that reporting also shows how a government decision to allow vaping devices and products to be sold in Canada was made without any scientific evidence that would help people quit smoking.
So it looks like they're criticizing the Canadian government on their recent proposed regulations for vaping. Now, if you haven't heard about what the Canadian government is looking to implement, we did do a full video about that, which you can watch by clicking the card that's going to pop up right around here. But in short, they want to follow similar steps to what Europe did with the TPD compliance. In my personal opinion, these proposed regulations are kind of the best middle ground between restricting youth access while also giving adults access to flavors. Now let's jump back to the CBC video.
The latest numbers show an alarming increase in the use of nicotine vaping products among teenagers. Nearly 1 in 3 high school students in Alberta and Quebec say they'd vaped in the past month. It's 1 in 4 in Ontario and about 1 in 5 in British Columbia.
1 in 3 students are vaping. I know for a fact they only use this equation for the shock factor. I mean, if they used a percentage, in this case it would be 33%, it definitely doesn't sound as scary. This video is filled with little twists of information like this.
We still have 5 million adult smokers. 1 out of every 2 or 3 are likely to die unless they quit.
But there has never been any firm evidence showing that vaping is less harmful or that it could help smokers quit.
So apparently we're going to completely ignore all the research done by the Royal College of Physicians and Public Health England. I mean, they have determined that vaping is 95% safer than combustible tobacco and that it is a viable option for quitting smoking.
And surveys show the number of kids vaping in Canada is still rising.
So the number of kids vaping in Canada is rising, but can we also talk about the number of kids smoking? Now, I'm not condoning youth vaping at all here, but they're definitely looking at this whole situation with a glass half empty perspective. If you ban vaping or get rid of flavors, teens are either just gonna vape tobacco flavors or they're gonna start smoking.
New reporting by CBC News shows how that rise comes out of a decision by Health Canada, and really behind it was this belief that vaping would help Canadians quit smoking. But there was no scientific proof, and Health Canada ignored early warnings about the risks, including evidence that young people.
So that's enough for that. There's only so much I can stomach, actually, to be quite honest with you.
It's pretty ridiculous, yeah.
It is, isn't it? And so this no evidence thing, this no evidence mantra, that, I mean, for the CBC to be parroting the absolute mantras of, you know, the body part orgs and the Bloomberg types, I mean, that's what makes this propaganda.
100%. I mean, they're pulling the exact same footsteps as, again, Bloomberg and also Truth Orange and all those anti-vaping organizations. And again, it seems like, you know, they'll find information being like, of some headline being like, oh, vaping's bad for you, but then as soon as someone else is just like, oh wait, hold on, let's talk about it. It's like, no, we don't want to talk about it. We saw that vaping's bad for you, and that's it. And yeah, that's pretty much like I think that's the kind of part that irks me the most, where it's just like, okay, let's just have, like, you know, a calm discussion. Let's look on both sides here. But no, it's always. But to be fair, it's a news station. The scary headlines are usually what brings in the views. If they posted a headline, be like, oh, vaping helps smokers quit smoking, it'd probably be, nah, you know, won't get that much traction. Whereas like kid dies from vaping, it's like, oh, perfect, I need to watch that.
Well, you're giving them a bit of an out there, which I would not afford the CBC. I did work for them some years ago. But let's just be honest here. The fact of the matter is that this effort that the CBC was doing was to bully Health Canada to back down on their position on vaping. And let's remember, vaping is legal already now for months and months and months and months. It's like 7 months. Yeah. It was, you know, it not just legal, but royal assent and fully in place. And so the language they're using is designed to bully Health Canada. They say they ignored the evidence. They didn't, there was no evidence for its effectiveness. And that's not right. I mean, it's the CBC. I mean, if RegWatch can get a sit-down interview with the Director General of the Tobacco Control Directorate at Health Canada to talk about all these issues, if RegWatch can do that, where's the CBC? Did they not sit down with the Director General of the Tobacco Control Directorate at Health Canada to talk about these issues? If they did, he would have told them what he told us about the research that they used. Health Canada has their own scientists, their own research people. They reviewed the evidence. They also relied on Public Health England, also research out of the US. I mean, Health Canada can defend itself.
100%, yeah, and I thought that it was pretty convenient, considering that they released all this as, like, you know, provinces were starting to come out with their own regulations regarding vaping. Obviously, you know, this is to try to skew it in a direction that they were trying to lean towards.
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody, you know, that lives in Canada that's a vapor to be reminding everybody that Health Canada, you know, our premier public health organization, put their stamp of approval on vaping. Yeah. And if that stamp of approval is to mean anything, they have to stick by it. Otherwise, if they can just get bullied and pushed around by Canada's broadcaster and a bunch of, you know, private organizations that are unaccountable, then what's the next thing that they're going to push Health Canada around on?
Exactly. This is almost kind of setting a precedent, you know, like if they don't agree with something, let's just bully them into the next thing, you know. And yeah, no, again, like looking at those clips, it's completely, it's obvious, you know, which side that they're kind of falling on.
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 thing alone was I was just like, okay, hold on, like let's just talk about this a little bit more. And yeah, we did videos on those, and it just abruptly stopped. But one thing I did notice though is that when we did upload these videos, they got some pretty good traction. I know that some people did get in contact with CBC, so maybe they saw it, maybe they didn't, who knows. But at least they kind of stopped making them.
Well, and I do believe that you guys played a very significant role in making that happen. So hats off to you. Thank you. We again, that was essentially the main goal. Shy was the one that initially brought up the videos and brought it up to me, and we watched the first episode together, and we were pretty pissed off, and it was hard too because like they were pretty much coming out every day, every night at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at our time, and essentially me and Adam, the guy that was playing the cashier in 5 Types of Vapers, would stay at the office until 11, 12 o'clock, watch the full episode, write the script, film the next video, and then rinse and repeat. With some damn fine news work, my friend. News commentary. That's great. So thank you. Last question. What's up for, I mean, I'm not going to ask you to, to do any futurizing here on vaping. I think things are going to unfold as they unfold. But in terms of the videos, what do you got coming up next that you can share?
Well, I don't know. So if we have any viewers watching now, our last maybe month's worth or 2 months worth of videos have only been voiceovers. That's because I've been in quarantine at home. The office was closed, and due to the whole COVID thing, we've been at home, and but now that things are starting to open back up, I'm gonna come back in the office like you see here. The studio is back up and running, and we're gonna be going back to our regular format, which I'm very excited about. Got some skits in the work, again, just because I feel like everybody's just been kind of cooped up, bored, everyone needs a laugh, and just keeping up with the news and whatnot, kind of just keeping things interesting.
Great. And the shops are opening back up.
Yes, as of this Friday, our shops, all of our shops are going to be open back up to the public. However, there are some very strict guidelines. I recommend watching our video, just so I won't bore you with a bunch of rules and guidelines for our stores. But we did upload a video just kind of going over all of the new guidelines if you do want to shop in store.
Well, that's excellent. And yes, it is up there. All right, Dave, well, look, thank you, and thanks, Shy, and the rest of the people at DashVapes. You're doing an excellent job, and just hang tight right there for 1 second. And that is it for this edition of RegWatch. Before you head off, please go over to support.regulatorwatch.com and consider making a financial contribution to our vaping coverage. It's easy. Just dig into your wallet and find a few dollars and toss them our way. You'll be happy you did, and so will we. And while online, don't forget to like us on Facebook, and please follow us on Twitter. For regulatorwatch.com, I'm Brent Stafford.